The 1960s was an era of tremendous and far-reaching social change. And that social change inspired a series of movements that would ultimately transform the United States. The first and arguably most important movement to emerge in the 1960s was the Black freedom struggle, which of course had been going on for centuries, but reaches a new level of success with the emergence of Dr. King and his movement of nonviolent civil disobedience. The civil rights struggle of the 1960s is arguably the most successful mass social movement that we see in the 20th century. It strikes down legal and political segregation to an extent that was unexpected and unprecedented even a decade before. The Black freedom struggle is also tremendously important because it acts as an inspiration or incubator to other movements that also dramatically transformed the United States. For example, many women in the civil rights movement become frustrated by their second-class status within the movement and decide that they need to form their own movement. Out of that frustration, that experience, emerges the second wave of feminist, or the modern women's movement. At the same time, we also see gays and lesbians, inspired by the example of the Black freedom struggle, who decide to pursue a liberation movement of their own. And of course, from that movement, gays and lesbians in the 1970s and 80s and to this day will win both recognition and acceptance by a large majority of Americans. The civil rights struggle of the early 1960s also inspires a student movement known as the New Left, which is not only committed to the Black freedom struggle, but is also committed to opposing the war in Vietnam and bringing it to an end as quickly as possible. There are other freedom struggles and movements as well. Latinos or Chicanos are also inspired by the example and the success of Dr. King and his followers. Malcolm X, other members of the Black freedom struggle, also inspire other more radical groups in society as well. Without the Black freedom struggle, it is difficult to imagine these other freedom movements, social movements, emerging when they do or having the success that they ultimately did. It is also important to note, however, that not all Americans welcome the changes that these social movements bring to the United States. And in fact, a large element of the conservative reaction or backlash that emerges in the last years of the 1960s and then gains force in the 1970s, a large element within that conservative backlash is a desire to turn back the clock, to erase the changes of the 1960s and take America back to a time, the 1950s, that conservatives see as a better and simpler era in which there was greater respect for teachers and parents, and America was a more stable and tranquil society. So in that sense, the social movements of the 1960s not only achieve a great deal, but also trigger a backlash that continues to have a great influence and impact on American politics today.